This is the Get To Free Press, and I'm George Boston Rhines. I'm in Valdosta, Georgia. And as you know, I have covered a lot of areas in the state of Georgia, as well as out of the state of Georgia. I've gone as far as the home office for Walmart, Bentonville, Arkansas. What the name of that place is? Bentonville, Arkansas. I have been as far as Bentonville, Arkansas, and Omaha, Nebraska. But today I am here because I received a call from, what's your name?
Charles Brown.
And Charles Brown, and who are you?
Carmen Brown.
Okay, and who are you?
I'm his wife.
You're his wife, okay. And they traveled from Atlanta to sit down with me, and I have some friends here sitting over here, they're witnessing this. I had some more, they left. Now, as we get ready to go into this, and he got a vast amount of information and proof, documentation, if you will. But before we go into that, let's go into prayer. You want to lead us in prayer?
Yeah. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for having me here with these guys, as well as to bring forth the documents that I have to show and prove the wrongful conviction through your prayer and your blessing. Amen.
Amen. God bless you. All right, now, we're going to start out, because I need to know this right now. How did you hear about me and the Get To Free Press?
Back in 2012, my brother had an issue dealing with the same county, dealing with the same drug task force.
And what county are we talking about this?
Chris County.
Okay.
And Mr. Bobby Worthy turned me and my family on back in 2012, and also through the YouTube channels.
Okay, thank you very much. Have you ever heard of the Get To Free Press? You ever watched any of my videos?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, okay, all right. And but you called me today, and we talked several times on the phone.
Yes.
So why did you call me today to do this? Why is this so important today?
Well, the reason why I called is to ask you to get help to expose to wrongful conviction and other things as well. And I and my family definitely need your help and assistance in this matter.
Okay. Well, I am here to assist, and we're going to go through some paperwork if it's okay. I understand that you have an attorney already. What's his name?
Mr. Stephen Reba.
Okay. Now, what I like to do, I don't have to, but I just do it out of courtesy from experience of what I do. Did you get his attorney, you did get his approval to do this?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And you say you had not gone to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution or WSB or none of the news media in Atlanta, right?
No.
But you chose to come here first?
Yes.
So do you think at a later date that you may want to contact them to do an interview?
Yes.
Okay. I would love to assist you and be behind the curtain if you ever decide to do that, okay?
Okay.
You give me a commitment on that?
Yes.
All right, okay. All right. Well, this is a good start. I'm asking you to take your shoes off, relax, and when I come back, let's get down to brass tacks and tell me a little bit about the documents you have here and what you've gone through, okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And y'all come This is part one of this outlay of information. In this video, you are going to hear names called, maybe some attorneys and judges and just ordinary citizens. And I just want everybody to hear this, to understand, regardless of how you may take it, they always have freedom of speech. And I just want to put that out front. He has obtained the right from his attorney. And now, my beautiful brother Brown, tell us your story.
Yes, my name is Charles Brown. I'm from Cordelia, Georgia, out of Chris County Judicial Circuit, which covers Chris County, Dooley, Wilcox, also Fisher. On the above date, 5/11/2014, I was arrested for a illegal U-turn on top of a hill inside of the Veteran State Park here outside of Cordelia, Georgia, going towards Americus, Georgia. As
What date did you say this was?
5/11/2014 on a Mother's Day inside of a state park, which the roadblock was illegal. In relation to that, some substance were found inside of a car that don't belong to me.
Short form, why did you say it was illegal?
Well, here in Georgia, there's 5 things that make a roadblock illegal. I did neither one of those. In order to make a U-turn illegal, there are 3 things that in Georgia state law that make a U-turn illegal. There's nothing but 3. I did neither one of those. And as case proceed, I was placed inside of a civil action lawsuit that was filed by Southern Center for Human Rights against Superior Court Judge, District Attorney's Office, and Public Defender System for their unethical, unconstitutional, and unprofessional practice of law. Cases not properly investigated before going before the grand jury and District Attorney's Office and Superior Court judges, using the deficiencies of the Public Defender's Office as an advantage process to secure conviction, securing an untested and unreliable conviction that would be used later in the future against the poor and uneducated of the law individual for recidivist purpose, while an individual language in jail months at a time without seeing a public defender.
Mr. Brown, what I need to know, this is my own concern. Can you give me the period of time, whether, if it's dealing with your case, that you actually served time in jail or prison? Can you tell me those periods of time?
Yes. The period of time I was locked up, incarcerated, was in 2014, also in 97 and 98, from the same circuit. And
2014 to 18.
yes, and that's what the longer period of time.
Okay. And I heard you say you went to prison?
Yes.
Okay, so you served time in jail
Yes.
and prison. How many times you actually served in jail? What's the period? A year, month, whatever? Approximately.
My first incarceration was in 97 and 98.
Uh-huh.
That was my first time ever being locked up, and I was at the age of 19. And those 2 convictions was illegal. And
And what were they?
possession of cocaine. And the second charge was in 98, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. And 2014, I was incarcerated for street name, flocker, bath salt, alpha PVP.
Okay. Okay. And so you mentioned to me earlier, before we got started the video, about something about 20 years. You gonna get into that as you start though?
Yes.
Okay, all right,
Yes.
good. So let's get on track and let's talk about what happened to you and why you came to Valdosta. Just tell me what happened in that.
Well, on 5/11/2014, I was out to the state park on Mother's Day, and there was a illegal roadblock set up, and I was arrested for a illegal U-turn on top of a hill, which my family and I found out later down the line that the roadblock was illegal. I was transferred over to Chris County, remained in the county jail for nearly 2 years without a bond.
We'll tell you the rest of the charge.
And the charges was again, bath salt, flocker, alpha PVP with the possession of a firearm in a commission of a felony and other misdemeanor charges. As I continued to remain in the county jail, I ended up inside of a civil action lawsuit that was filed by Southern Center for Human Rights against the Superior Court judges in the District Attorney's Office and the Public Defender's Office. You can find this information. All you have to do is Google lawsuit, Cordele, Georgia, 2014. You will see the actual lawsuit and the problem that consistent going on now in that circuit. Since the filing of this lawsuit has created a personal bias, prejudice, retaliated, corrupted act by way of conspiracy by the District Attorney's Office as well as Superior Court judges.
Do you know the district attorney name?
Where the District Attorney's Office, the District Attorney that had my case at that time is Denise Ficini, and Chief Judge, Judge Bridges, John C. Bridges, and Brad Rigsby and Bernard Brainer. They the one had control over my case, and like again I say, since the filing of that lawsuit, which was pending at the same time, my case going toward trial, which does constitute something that very prejudiced and biased at the same time. February the 19th, a guilty plea was entered with counsel standing next to me, which is Adrian Patrick. On February the 19th, Mr. Adrian Patrick, with his advice, required that I enter a guilty plea for these convictions. 4 months into the sentence, my family and I dug a little deeper and is trying to see how in the world it transpired, and come to find out that the alpha PVP is not illegal here in Georgia. And so the question my family are asking, well then, why was I incarcerated? November the 12th of 2015, I do want to put this and let everyone know that on November the 12th, 2015, this is where the corruption and the conspiracy take place between the district attorney, Brad Rigsby, Denise Ficini, also Judge Bridges. The district attorney's office filed a notice for evidence to be used for the recidivist, which was 4 prior convictions. Though 4 prior conviction is, again, my first conviction was back in '97, second conviction was back in 1998, and also there was 2 other convictions that was out of Turner County for possession of marijuana at that time, and there was another conviction back in 2004 for a possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, which they are trying to use those 4 convictions to increase my sentence all the way up to 32 years. But after the conviction was entered, my family and I dug into those 2 prior convictions and realized that those 2 prior convictions back in '97 and '98 were illegal. And the format, the practice back then still goes on now, which I have documents here that shows improved the corruption and the conspiracy done by those 2 individuals, because I was inside of a lawsuit with Southern Center for Human Rights, and that case was pending at the same time. So now my case become personal between those individuals, which led me incarcerated illegally. There was a federal lawsuit that was filed also against the officers that tortured me inside of the county jail, withholding legal mail, would not allow my fiance to send or receive any of my legal mail, which that case is now came to a conclusion, which I fought it 2 years, not understanding federal procedures and laws and things in that nature. And I am a mental health patient. And again, that lawsuit was concluded 2 months ago, and still I remain with these substances. Now, back in November of 2012, the judge did have a hearing to allow those who prior conviction to go forward, which I didn't know at the time or enter or give the plea, after losing my mother, father, grandfather at the time. And Mr. Patrick knew that my mental state wasn't appropriate to go in front of a Superior Court judge with a mental state as like that in a group plea, which is illegal here in Georgia. And I did enter a group plea, and Mr. Patrick knew that at the time. And again, I say, Mr. Patrick knew that at the time, and though full prior conviction did go through.
You do mean attorney?
Attorney Adrian Patrick. Again, 4 months after the conviction, my family realized that those 2 prior convictions that they used to allow Mr. Patrick to use me to enter a guilty plea for something that is not illegal here in Georgia. The substance, again, street name, Flocka, Alpha PVP, and bath salt is not illegal in Georgia. And so the question my family and I are asking, well then, why do I have all of these issues containing this illegal conviction? Again, I say that the Superior Court judges, Christopher T. Hughes, he's the one that did my suppression hearing. And that suppression hearing maybe lasted an hour or 2. And my attorney at that time was Jason B. Moon. I have documents here with me stating from an email from Mr. Christopher Hughes, which is the judge. He took upon himself to get inside of his car and go out to the place where the crime has been committed. And he went, and his direct words were, based on my finding and my conclusion of going up the decline hill that blocked my view and Mr. Brown's view, I determined that the U-turn was illegal, that Mr. Brown couldn't see oncoming traffic because of the inclined hill. I have a video of my personal video that my family went outside up to the state park and took themselves, and realized that the judge determination at that time was incorrect. Also, he went into depth and state that it doesn't matter if Mr. Brown did or not violate unsafe driving. It doesn't matter. What does matter is the viewpoint of the officer of where he was standing, which was 200 yards away. And based upon that determination, he ruled with the district attorney, which is Brad Rigsby. And amongst that, also with the corruption with the district attorney and Superior Court judges, which my family and I would like to bring to the people's attention, which we know this is not legal. Here, I state that Judge Bridges at that time did violate my 6th and 4th Amendment, and in attention to bruise his discretion by making an unfair ruling allowing 2 prior legal convictions to stand on their face to be used for live testimony and for recidivism purpose. When the record reflects no transcript, no discovery was ever filed in neither case. And this is what my family and I want to address to the people. It's the case with 97 and 98, which don't exist. There's no discovery from the Department of the Drug Task Force that arrested me back then, 97 and 98, which that too was the issue with Cordell in the crack era, meaning any black guys standing on a corner, lock them up, and that was the process back then. Again, I was 19 years of age and never been incarcerated. But as we speak now, there's no transcript, there's no discovery, and there's no warrant for that arrest back in 97 and 98. That practice that they were using back then, they was using a form, and it's called a waiver form. And that waiver form is too illegal. And on that waiver form, it called a Borking rights. Borking rights, there are 3 rights. And one right that is not on there is you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. And this form I have here is the direct form that they were using back then to constitute a conviction for any charge dealing with a guilty plea without a lawyer. There wasn't no attorney back in 97 and 98 to defend the poor black guys and children, adults, here in Cordell, Georgia. There was no system for that. And I say again, that public defender system in Cordell did let me and my family down. But I say again, these forms that they were using back then is illegal.
Now, let me interject at this point. So from what you are saying, in Cordell, Georgia, that there could have been, and perhaps was, black people that was convicted and went to jail unjustly.
Yes. And the document that I just showed proved and shows clearly that process, that practice, that constantly practicing now is still going on. And there's many other individuals that been convicted through that same process, which is unconstitutional. I have an affidavit statement written from one individual, and I have multiple other letters from other individuals that was convicted back in 97 and 98, also in 2002, without a lawyer. Yes. And the issue that I definitely also want to bring to the public's attention is that my family and I have spoken with Southern Center for Human Rights. The lead attorney, I think, was Ms. Tia Holly, Mr. Stephen Bright at that time, but I did speak to Mr. Tia Holly, and I addressed the issue about 2014 conviction and dealing with Alpha PVP, and there wasn't much she could say, but my family and I are very disappointed, confused, and sad at the time, because there was an email sent back from Mr. Tia Holly, and we begged her, that office, to help in 2015, back in September. And she emailed back, "We can't help you." That lawsuit came to an end July the 1st, 2018. There was a consent decree that was consolidated until that Department of Justice statement. I want to make that clear. There was a Department of Justice statement, and inside of that statement, they spoke boldly about the process of how Cordell processing individuals. But also that consent decree was handed down by Judge McHale out of Fulton County. Judge Downey from Fulton County did get involved to a point which I filed a notification with that court in Fulton County for the violation of the consent decree at the time, and I brought that to Mr. Tia Holly at the time. They too denied to review the violation of the consent decree at that time. Also, Judge Bridges on the above date of November the 12th. No, I take that back. On 6/26/2014, there was a motion that I filed asking the courts to please tell me and my family why you have me incarcerated, which was a preliminary, pro se preliminary motion that I filed, which too was overlooked, denied intentionally by Judge Bridges, Chief Judge Bridges. And that preliminary hearing never were heard. On September the 9th of 2015, I went before Superior Court Judge Christopher Hughes for a arraignment. And on that date, Christopher Hughes, which I have a video of that court proceeding. I have a video of that court proceeding. And amongst that court proceeding, Mr. Christopher Hughes, Judge Hughes, did ask Denise Ficini, why didn't Mr. Brown have a preliminary hearing? Denise Ficini specified clearly for the record, Judge, there's no preliminary hearing for Mr. Brown. And Christopher Hughes also stated for the record that Chief Judge Bridges had the preliminary hearing in his hand and wondering why he refused the preliminary. In the midst of that, I remained in jail a little bit more period of time.
Excuse me. He had the document?
Yes, I have the transcript and the video.
But he had it there?
Yes.
In the courtroom?
Yes, but the thing is, with the preliminary hearing, I have been arraigned now, so it ain't no preliminary hearing. But I've been crying in my family, which I have documented, asking the public defender at that time, since I don't know what I'm doing, help me out. I filled my application out way before I was indicted. And once I got indicted, then I addressed it to the court like, where's my preliminary hearing? Right. And that when Judge Hughes stated for the record, Chief Judge Bridges was the one supposed to have done it. Denise Ficini interrupted him and specified, Judge, we ain't having no preliminary hearing. Okay. We're not having that.
Okay, now, my question is asking you what I just asked you for this purpose. I want you to answer this question. How did that make you feel when you know that wrong had been done by the people who sits in authority and supposed to disperse justice? How did that make you feel?
At that time, it felt like I was voicing and fighting a wall. And I felt lost, confused, just very emotional, tore down mentally. As I sit here now, that's the same way I felt then, I feel now. For individuals to sit in chairs like that and watch over people's lives, it does screw you over.
Did it ever run through your mind that if they did it to me, they done it to others?
Yes. 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 And yes.
Okay. All right,
yes.
You continue. I just want to know that.
Yes. And this also add with the question that you asked. On February 11, 2015, Defense Counsel, Chief Judge Bridges, my defense counsel at this time was Matthew Dale out of Tifton, Georgia. him, as well as Chief Judge Precious and District Attorney Brad Rigsby, did conspire together with corrupted acts intentionally against me, setting bond, which I remained in the county jail for a year and a half before I got this bond, for a charge that I was never arrested for or indicted for. Setting bond without my consent did falsify a additional charge to the bond, which I wasn't arrested for nor indicted for. He took it upon, the chief judge took it upon himself and add a new charge on to my indictment and warrant and bond. Please review the court order that was filed February 11, 2015 in Chris County.
What did they add?
The charge that they added on to the bond was distributing methamphetamines, which I was never arrested or locked up or indicted for distributing methamphetamine.
Wait. Are you telling the truth?
I got the documents here with me now.
Why do you think?
Because of my involvement with the Southern Center for Human Rights lawsuit. That's why the lawsuit was going forward, my trial was going forward, and I'm gathering information from the county jail, giving it to the investigator that's investigating this lawsuit with the Southern Center for Human Rights. That's why this become personal with them, not with me. I don't have an issue with them at this time. I'm trying to prove and find out why I'm incarcerated, asking the chief judge to give me a preliminary hearing, give me a proper call hearing to find out why I'm in here. Tell me and my family why he refused to do so. But on February 11, 2015, Matthew Dale out of Tifton, Georgia, he too was consolidated with the Conspiracy Act, allowed the judge to put that charge on to that bond.
Who did that?
Attorney Matthew Dale was my public defender,
And he allowed that to happen.
But this the thing, Mr. Boston, is that the public defender system is being sued too, and that's why I have had 12 attorneys onto my case.
How many?
12. Now, 2 paid, rest of them public defender, even my appeal attorney. And in the midst of that, with this bond situation, Matthew Dale allowed and sat there and allowed the judge to do so without objecting. And months later, I filed a bar complaint. No, immediately. Within a week, I filed a bar complaint against him, asking him to be removed from my case. And a month later, my family and I got rid of him and paid Jason B. Moon, which that too got out of hand.
Who's Jason B. Moon?
Jason B. Moon is an attorney out of VALDOSTA, Georgia. And he's located here in VALDOSTA.
Okay.
He's located here in VALDOSTA. The other question is with another public defender's office, which is Sean Hoover. He's the chief conflicts attorney. Now, in the midst of this, I had an attorney named Burt Baker. Burt Baker was the chief attorney at that time, and as you guys look at lawsuit Cartier, Georgia, 2014, you will see actually his name all through the lawsuit, and he's resigned chief counsel now in Thomasville, Georgia. And this particular individual stated to me and my family that he know what they are doing and he's not going to help into the case. And it got so bad to the point whereas he actually took my left arm, squeezed it, and telling me in my face inside of the county jail that he will not file no preliminary hearing for me. And it got to the point physical blows almost occurred, and he filed that for the record, which I have the documents here with me now showing where he went to the
You
judge.
keep saying he, and include his name in some of these.
What he, Mr. Baker, Burt Baker went to.
Mr. Bacon, what's his title?
He's the chief public defender at that time in
Chief
Cordele,
Public Defender.
in Cordele,
Not
Georgia.
Mr. He Chief Public Defender.
Yes,
Okay, go ahead.
and he specified that he will not file a preliminary motion on my behalf, and he went to the judge and told the judge that he would like to be removed from my case, and Judge Christopher Hugh allowed that to go through.
But before you go to your next point, going through what you have been through over these many years, do you feel or believe that these judges and lawyers are friends of friends that work together? And how do you feel about that? And don't stay on track where you're at. I'm throwing that in.
It's obvious and clear that statement you made is true, and how I feel about it is wrong. It's not equal, it's not fair, it's not constitutional to jeopardize another person's freedom or take his life from him without proper investigation and proper understanding. But is that right? No, it's not right. It's not right. The other substance that I would like to place on to you guys is that October the 27th of 2015, Jason B. Moon, trial counsel at the time, and I'm set for trial for November of 2015. October the 27th of October the 15th, trial counsel Jason B. Moon filed a petition with the court to be removed from my case because my family and I hired Adrian Patrick to represent me as well as a defense team against these illegal charges. On November 5th, 2015, I did file a pro se response objecting to that.
Hold on just a minute. You use the term pro se. Explain pro se before you go far about the objection. What does pro se mean? Some people don't know.
Pro se is a litigation term as layman, and you are your own attorney trying to defend yourself from a conviction, charges, or allegations.
Okay, which is legal.
Which is legal, yes, which is legal. Again, November the 5th, 2015, I did file a pro se timely motion objecting against Jason Moon removing from my case. And this is the reason why he say he removed himself from my case. Because you have hired additional counsel without informing or consulting with me on this matter, preventing me from being able to adequately represent you. That don't make no sense. That's why I objected, at the same time being in the county jail without a bond. On November the 8th, 2015, Chief Judge Pridgett did deny my response and removed trial counsel Jason B. Moon from my case on a Sunday. And that date is November the 8th of 2015. Please pull your calendar and see what date that is, giving me no chance to object constitutionally, to transcribe with a court stenographer so I can try to get my money back that we liquidated houses, cars, things in that nature to pay him. That was on November 8, 2015, on a Sunday. On November the 23rd, 2015, I did file with the clerk a pro se certificate immediate review. Still, no court date has been set or scheduled. Now, a court date still have not been scheduled. Judge Prezi did prejudice and show bias toward my due process right to a counsel, which is the 14th Amendment violation, and violation of Georgia Uniform Superior Court Rules 6.2 by failing to give me an opportunity to respond to motion or appeal the decision. Please see court case Courtside versus Murphy. My family and I have documents showing whereas Adrian Patrick knew my mental state at the time before the guilty plea was entered. Not to forget that Adrian Patrick.
Who's Adrian Patrick?
Adrian Patrick is an attorney out of Snellville, Georgia. Snellville out of Atlanta, Snellville, Georgia. And Mr. Adrian Patrick also represented Ms. Carmen Walker. And she do have information in relation to the fact whereas Adrian Patrick represented her for a charge out of Cordele, Georgia, consolidated with my incarceration. And there was a warrant for her arrest, and she called Adrian Patrick saying he was representing me at that time, and Adrian Patrick took her case and money at that time, and she would like to speak on that as well.
Yes, as Mr. Brown stated, I had a need for an attorney. I went to visit Mr. Brown at the Crisp County Jail after Thanksgiving 2015. And while I was there, the officers came to me and asked if Mr. Brown did any act in front of me that was lewd or crazy, and I said, well, no. Did anything happen? He said someone made a complaint. And I said, well, here's my information. If you need to talk to me again, you have my license, you have everything you need. And they came out and got, as I was about to enter my car, they came out to me again and were a bit rougher with their questioning, and I was agitated also. And I said, well, listen, you have my phone number, you have all the information you need. Call me if there's any question about anything. Lo and behold, a week before Christmas, I went out and I got blown up with phone calls that the police were trying to find me. And I'm like, for what? I didn't get any information. No one called me. Nothing happened. But anyway, they came to my house twice with the assistance of DeKalb County to try to arrest me. And from what I could gather from just people that I knew, there was some sort of indecency charge. I don't know, indecency, I haven't been indecent, I haven't done anything to be charged for. And I was wondering why Crisp County was trying to come for me. So I contacted Mr. Patrick, and Mr. Patrick agreed to assist me because I was familiar with him handling Mr. Brown's case. Be that as it may, as it came down, Mr. Patrick did not give me assistance, even after I paid the fee that he requested. I sent information to the what do you call it, the board, the Georgia Bar. I made a complaint against him, and the complaint was settled in my favor. So the thing is, Mr. Patrick realized he did not give me effective counsel. I sent the request to the bar, and they made the fee arbitration happen. So we eventually won that case.
When you say won that case, what does that mean?
That means that Mr. Patrick returned the fee, and without question.
In the amount of $20?
It was $1,000.
And that's the issue with Adrian Patrick is that he allowed this to go through as is and remain incarcerated illegally with his intent unknowing the prejudice and bias from Superior Court judges and the District Attorney's Office.
When you say prejudice, you mean along the lines of race or just prejudice to the case?
Prejudice to the case and long line of race.
Okay.
And Mr. Patrick had full knowledge of that. And I have a tape recording of him and I, and that tape recording was given to the public defender, Sean Hoover, at the time, to withdraw my guilty plea to correct this incarceration, and showing that Mr. Adrian Patrick had patterns of doing so. Mr. Sean Hoover, which is the chief conflict public defender out of Cartier Judicial Circuit, and he too refused to allow that to enter into the record, which this tape recording have a lot on it, and you guys will get a chance to review it. Also, I want to take you guys to another attention, is to the Court of Appeals. There was a ruling that came down December the 28th, 2017, and which you guys can review for yourself on my social media site, which is Wax Kid Brown, Cordell, Georgia. And once you
repeat again.
that Facebook social media site is Wax Kid Brown, Cordell, Georgia, where you will see the corruption and the conspiracy from the Court of Appeals. And the three judges that was residing in this case, which is Ellington, PJ, Andrews, and Rickman, JJ. And that ruling came down December the 28th, 2017. And inside of that ruling, the Court of Appeals made a opinion and ruled upon that opinion that 16132512L is a statute that is being used for alpha PVP, street name Flocker, street name bath salt. And my family and I realized in that opinion is prejudice and bias. And this is the issue with that. You and my family realized that the law is simple. The Court of Appeal relying on the district attorney's assertion, allowing them to allow new evidence into the record, that you can't do that. You cannot do that. Even the Court of Appeal made a statement in their opinion in Frederick versus Hickley, 297 GA APP 101. That's a 2009 case.
Repeat it once again. I love to do it twice.
That case is Frederick versus Hickley, Hinkle, 297 GA APP 101. That's a 2009 case. And inside of that case, the Court of Appeal let it be known you cannot allow new evidence that's not into the record to be brought to them. They would not allow defendant or district attorney's office. In my case, that didn't happen. They allowed the district attorney to enter inside of the record OGCA 16, 13, 25, 12, L. And once they allowed that in, which you guys will see on my social media site, please review motion for reconsideration, which I have, my family and I have outlined, showing the corruption and the conspiracy. And amongst that, I also want to bring your guys to another attention, and this is the brief that we filed to the Court of Appeal, to the District Attorney's Office, asking them to reply. And we specified inside of that brief that alpha PVP is not illegal here in Georgia. And in the mix of that, Adrian Patrick refused and did allow the district attorney to enter things that it was inappropriate inside of the record. And I would like to bring you guys' attention to this particular case that keeping a lot of guys in prison, pro se, even with an attorney, which that too need to be contested, which is the grandfather case. Inside of that grandfather case, it specified that if you do not challenge the indictment from the very start, once you enter a guilty plea, according to the laws of the land, you just waive that opportunity to contest that indictment. And my family and I was wondering and looking into that and realized that those two cases that the district attorney allowed in was also inappropriate and unconstitutional and not legal. So the Court of Appeal ruling was very biased and very prejudiced, and should not allow the district attorney to enter inside of the record new evidence that I never heard before, I never seen before, never talked about before. Nowhere in the transcripts, nowhere in no court proceeding that I understood, knew what 12, 16, well, OCGA 16, 12, 13, 12, 1325, 12L is, or what it is. And when you guys review those documents, I want you guys to pay close attention to the GoFundMe page that I have attached to my social media site. Please click on to the hot link, which will prove and show the conspiracy and the corruption amongst the Superior Court judges and the Court of Appeal judges, which shows clearly that alpha PVP is not illegal here in Georgia by name of that substance in these documents. And one of the things that my family also would like to bring to you guys' attention is that February the 12th of 2000, well, Mr. Boston, this particular issue here is showing clearly the corruption and conspiracy amongst Turner County and Chris County, District Attorney office in Turner County, as well as in Chris County District Attorney office and Superior Court judges, Turner County as well as Chris County. On June 17, 2015, I was sentenced to a 3-year prison sentence for probation violation for the actual charge in Chris County, which is Alpha PVP, which is not illegal in Georgia. Amongst that process, there were some individuals got involved, which is Mary Green, which is the clerk of Turner County. Also John Mobley, which was the public defender at that time, represented me at that hearing, and Judge Cross, and she was the resigned judge. Through that process, which I have documented transcripts showing where she, the judge, did deny me bond to be released on probation bond at the time, which I just received the bond February 11 of 2015, where I indicated earlier that the chief judge, as well as Matthew T. Dale, attorney out of Tifton, Georgia, and Brad Rigsby, Bernard Brainer, conspired together and added an additional charge, which I was never arrested for nor indicted for. And that same process repeated over in Turner County. On that deposition probation petition form, it says possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, which I have here is the warrant. The warrant for probation violation, and it do not have possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. The warrant clearly states in possession of methamphetamines, which I was never arrested nor indicted for methamphetamine, nor possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. This document that I'm reading through now is a consolidation as an amendment to the federal lawsuit that I filed against the officers in the county jail, requesting to amend additional complaint, which at this time it was denied by the federal judge. But these documents clearly show the corruption amongst these guys, where they added additional charge back in March the 12th, 2015. And this was a probation revocation hearing. That did go through illegally. John Mobley at that time seen the documents that I produced, what I will produce, and he too refused to address these issues about the false incarceration, and filed an appeal to the Court of Appeal, and that appeal was denied as well.
Have you lost confidence in the federal courts? I mean, if you keep going through this with these federal judges, I mean, just short form, do you trust them?
This process?
Yeah.
No. No, I do not. This lawsuit is over 2 years. It just came concluded 2 months ago. In the midst of this lawsuit process, I was transferred from Coastal State Prison, and my family and I still question this movement, to the worstest prison in the state of Georgia, where guys is dying daily, which is VALDOSTA State Prison. I was placed in the worstest dormitory on that compound. And I did address, which I have documents, that I did address to the federal court judge, Judge Langford, to please remove me from this building. Judge Langford responded back, no, it's out of his jurisdiction. That I do understand. But the question that my family and I are asking, if we don't have the the confidence or the faith into federal system, to your question that you asked, Mr. Boston, and their response is no, with document in their hands, then of course I have no confidence in no legal system.
Okay, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Allow me to interject here, because you said something. You said something about the worst prison in the state of Georgia.
Valdosta State Prison.
Is that well known among inmates that Valdosta is the worst prison,
Yes.
and that more people are dying
Daily.
in that prison than any other state prison?
Daily. It's all on social media site. There's a good brother of mine. I think you guys may be familiar with Mr. Mario William out of Atlanta, Georgia. Have one of the biggest Department of Correction lawsuit hands now, and that inmate name is Mr. Kevin Stephen, and he's the inmate that got beat by the correction officer with a hammer. Very bad, but you can see that on social media sites. But yes, Valdosta State Prison, where I met him, and that is one of the worst state of one of the worst state of prison in the state of Georgia. I was transferred there from Coastal State Prison, and Coastal State Prison is a program camp. But in the midst of that, I asked the judge to move me from that building, which that request was denied. But in the process of that, my family and I do feel, and strongly feel, that this was retaliation. We have also documents showing where legal mail was being held by the Department of Correction from Coastal State Prison all the way to Valdosta State Prison, which my family and I are willing to file a lawsuit against that as we speak now. Statute of limitation is a factor now, and these incidents took place back in 2017 and also in 2018. But yes, legal mail was being held by mailroom staff personnel here in Valdosta State, Georgia, and Valdosta State Prison. But yes, the probation revocation hearing was a clearly due process violation. Attorney, public defender John Mobley was aware of that, and he too denied to properly appeal these decisions and fight amongst the probation revocation hearing, which I do have the transcript. And I asked the federal judge to take in consideration of understanding the situation that I'm in, and give me a little bit more time, because I'm pro se, give me a little bit more time, extension for 60 days. And I let it be known that one of my conditions was that I was a mental health inmate at Coastal State Prison and undergoing numerous mental health counselors, which is more than I can count. And I also let it be known clearly to the judge that I was then and still now suffering tremendously mentally with paranoia, fear, loss of sleep, and difficulty to eating, and has undergone numerous continuation with prescribing medication for depression and other numerous various reasons as follow. Number one, on 4/21/2015, my father passed Tuesday, the day after visiting me at Chris County Jail, and that was on a Monday. He died Tuesday. He had to be removed from the county jail after he witnessed the food that they were serving me in the county jail, which I snuck inside of the county jail and showed him. With my sister, with her newborn baby, and And my dad, confronted the administration, which is Chief Partain. And he had to be removed from the premise. And he died the next day. On 5/31/2015, 37 days later, my grandfather passed. On 6/21/2016, 2 years later, my mother passed. And I asked the federal judge to please allow these documents into the record against Chris County Jail and their correction officer, which is Sarah Johnson, which she's a captain now, and Corporal Tracy Morris, which she's a corporal now inside of the county jail. And I asked the federal judge to give me some time to address this process, and that request was denied. I don't have no faith into the system, period. I'm depressed on a daily basis. I'm struggling and dealing with this. I'm struggling on a daily basis, dealing with this. And I feel helpless. God, just have mercy. Just have mercy. I can't go no more, man. It's just, I apologize. It just get emotional, man. It just get emotional. Cause, you know, these 3 people that died, I ain't gonna say them, you know, but the point is, it's done, it's over with. It's just emotional. To the point that I don't like to get like this.
Go ahead, please.
No, this is very emotional. And I hate getting like this. The medication that I'm taking, it don't help with the racing thought. It's difficult to sleep and knowing that they doing this intentionally. I know I'm not the only one, you know, et cetera, but the people that are gone, that's no longer here with me, I can't touch them, see them, hug them, anything in that nature, ever again. And I say again, the arrest itself is illegal. And there's no way I'll be able to forgive anyone that participated into this. And the days and nights of being in that prison, which is VALDOSTA State Prison, seeing people dying. It's not a place for people. You got to get them people some help that's witnessed this here in society. You have to. And it's a struggle within itself. And I pray that everyone that listening and looking into this realize that something definitely have to be done. And again, I say I live in fear on a daily basis for my child that's in Cordele, Georgia now. And being able to, you know, not being able to see him, which I have visitation right for, but just going into the county and being seen by the wrong person. Of the people that put me in jail may can or do something to me, and I stay away from Cordele. You know, and my son ain't the only one there. I have sisters and brothers and nieces, over 5 of them. And I too can't really see them like I want to. And it's difficult and it's hard to live with. And I encourage everyone that watching, just take all into consideration. And Mr. Boston, I want to thank you for this interview. I want to thank you for your time and the gentlemen that's here with you. I want to thank you guys for everything that you have done and continue to do.
Helping us push this forward.
If there's any other question that you would like to ask Mr. Boston, please do so.
I would like to ask you this question because I've been fighting the jail out there for decades. And in 1990, from 1994 to 2009, we've had 31 jail deaths out there, and nobody will hardly even publish that anymore. I used to cover it a lot, but I found out that nobody in the state of Georgia or in this country care about human beings once they're incarcerated. That's obvious. Mm-hmm. And so, but now, when I heard you make a statement to me that I didn't know, I had heard that a lot of people died there in the state prison here, but I didn't know that it was considered or rumored that it was the worst jail in the state of Georgia. I do know that we got some serious problems here in Valdosta and Lowndes County. And I'm recording, by the way, too. And back in 2009, I believe it was, I saw a 1860 charter on the second floor of the Valdosta City Hall, leading into Judge Edwards' courtroom back then, I think it was. Might have been a little earlier than that. But that charter said that the mayor and council shall pass all proper and necessary laws and ordinances for the control of slaves and free persons of color, and to control, suppress, and abate all nuisances arriving from hogs, dogs, horses, and other animals straying at large in Valdosta. Needless to say, when I saw that, number one, as a veteran, number two, as a human being, I addressed former Mayor John Freddy and the city councilman about taking that disgraceful charter down because it was displayed on the second floor of City Hall. And I addressed council 2 or 3 times before they finally voted to take it down. The mayor said that it was Freddy said it was a part of our history and heritage as a city, and therefore it should remain there for historical purposes. But eventually, it was taken down. I told them when I addressed them the first day, I said, I don't care if it takes 20 or 100 years, it eventually will be removed. That's how confident I was. And so, why am I making that statement about that charter? Because Judge Hugh Lawson ruled, I got the document, June of 1997, he found 105 violations at the Lowndes County Jail. He gave them 2 years to come in compliance with his recommendation. So after all them years, I don't know what year it was, but I went back to Judge Hugh Lawson and asked him, because I had proof that nothing had changed out there, it had gotten worse. Mm-hmm. And he could not answer and refused to answer who, if anybody, ever complied with his court order. Therefore, it was ignored, which tells me that they took the charter down from the wall, but that mentality is still in Valdosta and Lowndes County, and don't nobody want to talk about it.
Right.
And so when you make the statement about the prison, I said to myself, wow. And I'm wondering now if the deaths that we hear about at the prison, are they real, or are those just the ones that we hear about? There may be other people that died that we just don't know about. Because people had died in the jail, and I have a individual on video, I'm going to release it pretty soon. Say what happened, they got a new policy, and this before the current sheriff. But they said they released them to go to the hospital or go home. But they can't say they died in the jail. Now, I don't know whether it's true or not. And we don't have no body in Georgia legislature or in any area that I know of. And the grand jury have power to go in and investigate the jail. But from what I understand, the people that are on the grand jury don't even know their own power. I have a few judges that are my friends, and they are telling me, because I didn't know, how powerful the grand jury is. They are a powerful body of people, but don't nobody tell them how powerful they are. So people serve on the grand jury not knowing their power. And so we have a big job to do. And I want to thank you all. You thank me, but no, I want to thank you. I thank you all for coming, because we have too many black people go along to get along, get in positions of power, on city council, become the mayor, and they forget who they are. They forget where they came from. And so I love Chicago. I think it was Chicago, somebody sent it to me about, they got a new thing now wherein they're starting a list of all the Uncle Toms and Aunt James. They're trying to put them all together collectively across the nation, so we'll know who to trust and who not to trust. Those sellout Negroes, what I heard. So we'll know who we're dealing with. Just because they get a judgeship, but can't float. They got a ship, but can't float, because too many holes in the bottom of it. So we need to know those people. Now, so you asked me, did I have any more questions? No, I don't have any questions. I just want to commend you all. But what I do want you to explain to me, if you can, you got a tall stack of papers there at the front, on the front. What are the old papers about? Can you, right off the top of your head?
Here?
No, the ones on the corner.
Here.
Yes, sir.
That is actually showing and proving the 5 violation for a roadblock here in the state of Georgia, and the 3 things that make a U-turn here illegal in Georgia, which I violated neither one of those.
Okay. So when you talk about that, you're not just talking about what you don't know, you're talking about what you do know, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there's a red folder next to that one. What that red folder, what's in that one?
That is the documents are showing everything that I just said to you guys about the corruption and the conspiracy from the Superior Court judges as well as the Court of Appeals.
Okay. What about the next set of paper on the end? If you know.
This stack here goes with this stack dealing with witnesses that been convicted illegally without a counsel out of Cordell, Georgia. Some names and some affidavit statements that was sent to prison illegally as well.
Okay. What about the next one there?
This is the court filings from each attorney I have had.
Okay.
Paid and public defender.
How many have you had?
I have had 12.
Okay. What about that next stack next to the red set there?
This is the actual federal lawsuit, 2 years running. Most of the paperwork that I have here, I had in prison with me, I brought home with me.
Okay. And what about the one on the front here, that paper bag? Yeah, what's that?
This is the document that I forwarded to Fulton County, which 2 was denied.
Okay. What about the one next to it?
them two go hand in hand, which is the federal lawsuit.
Okay, I see some DVDs or CDs. What on top of some sheets, and then explain the sheets beneath those.
The DVD, these are actually videotapes and recording from Adrian Patrick, myself included, the traffic stop by the state patrol officer. Yes.
Okay. What about the next big one in front of you to your left there? What about that one?
Again, this is the actual filing from the attorneys
Okay, you
that I
said.
have had.
All right. What about one next to it? Or that's a combination of papers in front of you, right in center of you there.
This here
Yes, sir.
is actually the document that I just spoke on
Okay.
in relationship, and also with this, with the death of my mother and my father and grandfather, I requested, which we have documents as well in here, that we requested to the federal, to the Chris County, to the jail,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to. It's a process for you to be brought back to your county to go to the burial site, and you have to go through the person that I'm suing, which is Sarah Johnson. And she specified to my family that after coming up with the money, with the grace of God, that we not going to come and get him. But they did go get my brother and my nephew from different other prisons, which is farther than where I was, closer to Cordele.
Okay. All right. The one right in front of this, right in front of me here. That one. Yeah. What is that one?
Well, this stack is the one dealing with Jason Moon and his secretary, which I didn't say at first, but I will say now that Jason Moon and Donna Katie, which is the clerk, no, she's the court reporter for Superior Court Judge Christopher Hughes. And there was a request for a transcript that cost over $1,000, which we requested the money back. That was 2 years ago, and we still don't have the money. They split, not the transcript. Jason Moon took $500, and Donna Katie took $500 and left off without a transcript, and we looking into trying to find a way to get that back.
And that's in the Georgia judicial system.
Yes.
Okay. Now the one in front here with the red beneath it. What's this one?
This is the actually complaint that was filed by Jason Moon, which was an interlocutory appeal to the Court of Appeal, and that was he filed it with the Court of Appeal, and there was a very vital document, and that's the transcript that we paid $1,000 for to give it to the Court of Appeal. Instead of Jason Moon getting the transcript after we paid for it and giving it to the Court of Appeal to review the Constitution violation, he refused to allow that transcript, and him and Donna Katie split the money, and we still out of transcript, and the Court of Appeal did deny that.
In the state of Georgia.
In Georgia.
Okay, now, right there on that book there, what are those scatter papers that's part of a combination of what?
Well, this is the document showing the conspiracy and the corruption amongst the Court of Appeal judges and Superior Court judges out of Cordele, Georgia.
And the smaller sheet right there.
This is an actual letter that I wrote to Mr. Moon, requesting for the $1,000 for the transcript for the suppression hearing, and giving him a little bit more case law to help him with my case, and that letter was too overlooked.
Okay. Now, excuse me, beautiful sister, when you explain what the one with beneath your glasses, what is that?
Oh, this is the information that I sent to the Georgia Bar against Attorney Adrian Patrick.
In which case you won and
In which
received
case I won
$1,000 back.
$1,000 back.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, if I may, I'm going to explain to you why I asked those questions, and I want to make this for the record. This man have served originally. How much time you was they gave you from the courts? 20 years.
20.
20. And you served what?
4.
4 of them. And then you why was you released? Short form.
Good behavior, parole.
Okay. Good. Okay. Now let me back to the point. The reason and this was not on tap. We had not talked about these stacks of papers here. That's something that I do because that's the flavor of my nature and the nature of my flavor. But This man has served time. He feels like he violated no real law. And in court, you can tell that he pretty near became an attorney because he checked the books and he the documents here to prove it. And I want to say to the Atlanta Journal and Constitution, I want to say to WSB TV, I want to say to ABC TV in Atlanta, I want to say to the black WLAT there, the radio station that I'm very familiar with. I want to say to the social media circles is that unless we in this country stand up for freedom of the press, freedom of speech, and the right to know, that no black person in particular should serve in the armed forces of the United States of America, because it don't make sense to serve in a nation wherein there is no justice, where you cannot register and vote and then hold public office without being removed. Why should we serve? I'm not talking about what I don't know. I'm talking about what I know. I served over 20 years in the armed forces, and I'm under a 5-year criminal trespass because I report what you all have just witnessed. And so I'm talking from experience. I'm not even tired yet. I ain't almost tired. In fact, I'm just beginning to fight. My grandmama told me about these days. And so I know that somebody got to carry on the dream, not of Dr. King, but the dream and the laws of a little man that rode into Jerusalem on the back of an ass. And y'all call me an outside agitator. And I say that's the highest honor that you can call me. I say that because Jesus rode into Jerusalem. That means that Jesus was an outside agitator. And when God stepped out of his domain and made man from the dust of the ground, he was an outside agitator. When Moses appeared on the scene and God had a job for him to do, Moses was an outside agitator. And so I'm in good company. You all today are outside agitators here in Valdosta. And we want you to know that we appreciate you, because we have some dirty clothes in Valdosta. And unless we have some outside agitators, nothing will change. So I want to thank you all very much. I want to thank the two brothers here sitting on the sideline for witnessing this. But I must go to a picture on the wall as I close. And I am closing now. I'm closing this video on Senior Servant Reverend Floyd E. Rose, a civil rights activist. I know y'all get mad with me. You don't want me to talk about him. The man is almost 80 years old. And I came in Valdosta in 74 to 79. I did a tour of duty at Moody Air Force Base. I returned in 89 and retired in 91. And I have never seen a black, or white, or Jewish pastor, or rabbi, or imam in Islam to stand up for the people here in Valdosta and Lowndes County as Reverend Floyd E. Rose. Now, I know I'm making a lot of people angry, but that's your anger. This is my truth, and this is not my story. This is that man's truth. And I will pray that his legacy, the work that he done here to make Valdosta a better community, will stand the test of time. This black museum right here, that this man right over here, Paul Ransom, has done so much. I'm going to close. Y'all have a nice day.